Hello my dear friends and welcome to my morning coffee. I have had a long break from my last video and I thought I would take a minute to tell you guys what's up. I want to start by saying that I'm sorry to those who have commented these last few weeks because I haven't even logged in yet to read them. I love reading your comments and chatting with you all and I hope you know that. So, I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which comes with a lot of problems, the greatest being chronic pain and muscle cramps. So I live with this constant gnawing pain that makes me super tired and hard to focus. So a few times a year I just crash, and the month of May is especially hard with birthdays, end of school, etc. So I overdid it big time. I know your lives don't revolve around me, but I want to explain where I'm at, so you know what's up if I fall off the face of the earth in the future. And also let me take this opportunity to wish you all a safe, warm and healthy summer from the very bottom of my heart. I appreciate each and every one of you for spending this time with me. So, let's create a couple of smaller projects, and I must admit I wasn't entirely happy with this first one, but I wanted to show you anyway in case you can use this fun idea for your own projects or at least laugh with me as I mess this up. I made this winter card a couple of years back and I wanted to make a summer version. The focal point, the cat, is stamped on a panel and I drew in the background and details around it with alcohol markers. I find when I just want to create that using an old project for inspiration and make a new version is a good way to get going. So I have a panel measuring 7.5 by 7.5 inches in Bristol Smooth cardstock. I also bring out my set of timholtz snarky cats and I choose a cat and place it off center in my stamping platform and stamp in VersaFine Onyx black ink. Before I move on, I take a piece of Gina K masking magic and stamp again on the masking paper so I can mask this cat when I make the background. Next, I know I will need some flowers, so I bring out this flower stamp set from timholtz. I stamp a few of each flower in VersaFine Onyx black ink on Bristol Smooth cardstock. Now let's make a background, and here is where my cat mask comes in handy. I bring out 4 green distress inks to ink blend the background and I place the mask over the stamped cat. I blend the lightest green twisted citron around my cat, but I don't go right up to the stamping and I don't blend it all the way out to the edges either. Next, I blend with one of the mid-tones, mowed lawn, from the white and into the lighter green. From mowed lawn, I move on to rustic wilderness, a darker green, and then I bring in the darkest green pine needle around the cat and coming in from the edges. I finish this ink blending session by going back to all the previous green inks to make sure this background is vibrant and smooth. Before I move on, I use my distress spray bottle to make bigger water droplets. The water reacts with the ink and I use a paper towel to pick up color and get these lovely lighter droplets all over this background. I will color my flowers using distress inks in yellow, orange and pink. I add the darker shades closer to the center at the base of each petal and where one petal overlaps another. Then I use my lighter shade to smooth out harsh lines and make the petals lighter further out. I color from the darkest color to the lightest. I color many flowers, some off camera, and I especially love the combo going from seedless preserves, a dark pink bordering on purple, to the bright pink picked raspberry and finishing off with a pale orange dried marigold. For this flower I'm using a dark orange crackling campfire all the way to a bright yellow mustard seed. So I have all my flowers colored and it's time to pull off that cat mask. It is always so satisfying to pull off a mask and reveal what's under. I'm coloring the cat in distress inks too, and I'm using a combo with brown vintage photo, orange rusty hinge and the yellow mustard seed. To finish off and frame my panel, I'm using VersaFine Clear Rainforest ink and blend the dark green ink from the sides. And then I conclude with VersaFine Onyx Black ink to intensify the framing of my panel. I have a couple of random leaf dies that I want to use, and I cut them from white cardstock and use distress inks in green shades to color them, a lighter green all over the leaves and a darker green at the base using a blending brush. Next, I want to add interest to this card, so I pull out a Christmas stamp set with music notes. Nobody will ever be able to tell that they come from a Christmas set. So I bring out VersaFine Clear Rainforest ink and stamp music notes all over the panel using copy paper to mask off, so I get notes where I want them. For this next step, I'm using oxide inks in Vintage Photo and Ground Espresso because oxides are hybrid inks. They stay on top of the surface and don't sink into the paper completely. I start by sketching in branches in the lighter brown, and then I come in with a darker brown. We're looking at the scene from above through branches and leaves, so I place the branches coming in from the edges. I also use my Stabilo All pencil to define the branches, and because it's water reactive, I can pull that black out with my wet brush. It's now time to start gluing down the flowers. Some I glue down whole and some I cut apart in the middle and have them coming in from the edges. When I have all my flowers in place, I continue gluing down the leaves. The bigger leaves are in place and I start gluing down the smaller leaves and I glue them onto the branches to give the branches more life. So here you can see the original card next to the new one, and you can see that the new card is missing the shadows from the branches on the ground. So I use my SIG clean color markers to gently sketch in those shadows in a lighter and a darker green. Now let's put this card together, and I have two black panels, one smaller than the other and a pink panel to go between them. So I glue the pink panel onto the biggest black panel. Then I glue the main panel on its black mat, and finally I glue them all together, giving me a thin black frame, a thicker pink frame and a thin black frame behind that. I had a hard time finding a sentiment, but I finally settled on a dilution sentiment sticker saying, "I don't know why people say I'm difficult, I'm a constant freaking delight." And I glue my sentiment strips onto my card. But I have to tell you the rest of the story. 1 second after I shut off the camera, I spilled a whole cup of coffee over my card, over the original card and all over my markers. Such a mess, and all my fault. So let's move on from this tragedy and look at my second project. I wanted to make a tag for my brother because he was turning 40, so I brought out this stamp set from Katzelkraft that I actually got from my brother, and I stamped all the animals on Bristol smooth cardstock. I decided to color the animals with my SIG markers, now clean from coffee. So I started with the elephant using cool grays, and the first thing I do is to map out where I want the shadows with my darkest gray. Then I went over the shadows with my medium gray, pulling the shadows out further before I blend over the whole animal with my lightest gray. For the giraffe, I use brown as my darkest. Using the same technique as before, I go from brown to orange to my lightest yellow. For the flying hippo, I use 3 shades of muted blue with the same technique, and I use 2 shades of pink for his wings. For the monkey doing yoga, I used the pink shades from the hippo's wings, but I added a couple more from that same color, and I used green for the leaves on his head. I'm making a 2-layered tag, and I cut 2 tags from watercolor cardstock, and I will make an inky background using blue and green Distress Oxide sprays and Distress Spray Stain. I bring out my distress sprayer and add clean water first. Then I add the sprays from the lightest to the darkest, and to avoid wasted ink, I press a scrap piece of cardstock into the inky tag, giving me an extra piece for another day. I spray a little more ink before I let the tag dry on its own. For the next layer to this tag, I will ink smoosh in distress inks in yellow, orange, red, and in the end even brown. I smoosh my ink pads on a piece of acetate and smoosh the color onto my tag, aiming for that smooshed and splotchy look. I dry in between layers and add more colors as I need them. Sometimes I add water droplets and pick up color with a paper towel, and I even bring in distress oxide inks in a couple of colors to get that more chalky texture. When I'm happy with the ink, I bring out distress mica stains with a lovely shimmer, and I use the straw from the sprayer to make splatters in yellow, orange and red. To add something more to my backgrounds, I bring out a timholtz stencil with numbers. My brother is a math teacher, and VersaFine Clear Chianti ink. Then I use a blending brush to stencil in those numbers in that red ink. Then I cover the numbers in Wow's Clear Matte Dull embossing powder and melt with my heat tool. And I do that in a few random places. Next, I bring out my die cutting machine and a circle die because I want something to peek through that circle window. I have sketched the silhouette of his two toddler sons on masking paper and cut them out. And now I run everything through the machine and get my window. I thought this periodic system stamp set from Crafty Annie would fit my math and physics teacher brother, so I stamp a few of them in the dark red ink and heat emboss them with Wow's Clear Matte Dull embossing powder. To add interest to my blue background, I do the same technique, but I use VersaFine Clear Twilight ink, which is a dark blue ink, and I stencil dark blue numbers and heat emboss them in a few random places. My brother has a gorgeous wife and 2 beautiful boys, so I bring out a dilution stencil with female silhouettes and choose the smallest one. Then I take my time figuring out how I can add the silhouettes so they can be seen through the window. But before I get going with that, I bring out a heart stencil from All and Create and gold lunar paste. I use a palette knife to add gold hearts in a couple of places on both tags. I take great care to add the wife mask and the kids' masks onto my blue tag and bring out Dilution's black shimmer paint. I use a blending tool to add black over the masks in a couple of layers. When I get to remove the masks, I am super happy with the outcome. Next I have 2 Timholtz and Sizzix alphabet and number die sets, and I cut out a few letters and numbers from a scrap piece of an inky background. My brother's boys are named Elio and Castiel and his wife is named Marlene, so I glue the first letter of each name onto the silhouette of each person. Next, I glue down all my quirky animals on the front tag. When I have all my animals in place, I spell out in Swedish, "Congratulations Bobo, 40 years. His name is Boas, but we all call him Bobo." Since my brother is juggling work with 2 toddlers, I chose to use the periodic system squares saying OMG life. The last thing I do is to attach the 2 tags with an eyelet. I know this video is a bit scattered, but I wanted to show you what I have been making. Good or bad, coffee and all. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and I pray we all can have a peaceful, creative and happy summer. Until the next time, happy crafting.